One from the gods. Joanna was voluptuous. She was made of fleshy curves that pleaded to be parted and plumbed and pulled and squeezed and sucked. Big full-blown balloons for breasts and buttocks that stood out like two half balloons. She had blonde hair which she often wore in two short pigtails. She looked like a healthy Fraulein milking maid. Manus was still living with Jane at the time. Jane still had a heroin habit and a hobby in Nick. It was not the most stable of relationships. She was trying to break the heroin habit, but it was a hard job. People kept calling at her house. Either they were selling or they wanted her to buy it for them. She usually knew where to get it, and by getting it for them, she would make herself a little. Jane and Manus were both on the dole. It often seemed like they had nothing to look forward to, no way out of their situation. A little smoke of smack would seem capable of turning a rainy weekday in Lancashire into a sunny weekend in the Bahamas. Still, Jane and Manus did manage to, if not break the bastard habit's back, then at least damage its spine, and they didn't touch the shit for the best part of a month. They pulled their dole money and bought an ounce of hash. They cut the ounce into 16 little bits and sold them for a small profit and then bought another. Hash was illegal and honest traders hard to find, and Manus was a popular man. One sunny afternoon, Manus bounced into the kitchen, and among the many hungry for hash customers, Manus felt, even before he spotted, the skag man. He wasn't hard to spot once you looked. He was the one wearing the death mask. This one was white, eyes sunken, teeth rattling, and a skull-like face. "I don't want no gear," Manus stated strongly. But deep inside, he knew the fucker still had a grip, and his words lacked conviction. Manus sorted out his punters and got the full story off the skag man. The skag man had Digonal, a morphine-based painkiller, famous for the fantastic rush when shot. It had been Jane's first love, and Manus's too. He used the purple cord from her nightgown as a tourniquet and got a hit straight in the arm. The beautiful dark red falling into the pink solution, reminding him again of some ritualistic blood sacrifice. Her veins were fucked, so she had to drop her pants and take it in the groin. It always made him twist his face and turn away when he saw her like that, up against the wall with her pants round her knees, and the needle and syringe sticking straight out of the softest bit between the top of her leg and her groin. Manus took our youngest child out of the house and out of the street and onto a piece of land where some friends of his lived in caravans. Joanna was there. She had 3 males round sniffing after her. She liked it like that. It was such a hot day and they were all panting and she just loved to tease. She had very tight jeans on. The zip had burst. She had laced it up with string. Her cunt bulged out of that string, was restricted, and begged to be freed. Her boyfriends were sex-starved, and it was such a hot day, and she kept sticking her tits out and wiggling her luscious bum, and the boys were drooling and slobbering. They all sat in the grass beside the duck pond. They drank some cider and smoked some draw. Jane's kid played at the edge of the pond. Joanna rolled over and put her head between Manus's thighs. She'd come on to him before, but they'd never really had the opportunity, and it was the same now. He couldn't really fuck with her here in front of her 3 sniffing admirers. And then there was Jane's kid, and Jane herself would probably be up soon. Then Joanna said, "I really want to have sex with you, Manus." Manus laughed. She qualified her case with, "I give really good head." And there was no two ways about it. Manus was going to have to oblige. In point of fact, as far as Manus was concerned, she could have put him in her mouth right there and then, in the open sunlight in front of anybody. But Jane appeared right then, and Joanna rolled away from Manus. Joanna and Jane were friends. Joanna's sniffers were pleased when Jane turned up. They thought she would take Manus away and leave the field free for one of them, but that didn't happen. More beer was got. Manus stayed on. Jane took her youngest and kissed Malice affectionately. She had eventually got her hit, and probably a bit more. She was like that with the gear. Always needed that bit more. She asked him not to be too late back, and he promised he wouldn't. As the evening wore on, Manus, Joanna, and her admirers moved into Joanna's caravan, and when Manus went out for a piss, Joanna came out after him. She got the string undone and pulled her pants down and squatted down. When she finished pissing, she did pull her pants up a bit, but she left her string well undone. Her blonde, wiry mat seemed thin and tame to him, so he somehow expected it to be lush and wild. She stood beside him and hauled one of her miraculous tits out. She took his hand and put it on her miracle. He touched and squeezed and then put his mouth there and sucked at the soft, monstrous mother of a thing. He slipped his hand inside her jeans, but she pulled away. She smiled then and walked a little away from the caravan. Nana stood looking at her. She went over to the duck pond. She walked across a plank of wood that had been laid across the duck pond. She stopped halfway across the plank, pulled her jeans down, and bent over to look at him through her legs. She started rubbing herself. Malice went to the duck pond, but she pulled her pants up and ran away laughing. Around the edge of the pond, she repeated the performance of dropping her pants and bending over and wiggling her bum and rubbing her slit. But every time he went to her, she pulled her pants up and ran away laughing. Exasperated and exhausted and frustrated, Malice says, Joanna, if you want it, hold still. I don't want it that much anyway. I'm going home. She pulled him down and bent over and wiggled. And he made a last lurch and just about managed to fall on top of her. His prick just about managed to dribble in and spurt with the first stroke. Joanna and Malice on the luscious green grass and the big bright moon shining down on the buttercups and their bare bums. She wanted him to stay, but he wouldn't. Diagonal or no aphrodisiac, he excused himself, but she wanted him to stay anyway. Malice didn't stay with Joanna. He never even got to find out if she really did give such good head. Malice went back to Jane, who was dead asleep. In the morning, Jane talked of how Joanna reminded her of herself when she was young and innocent, and how all the men sniffing around her only wanted one thing and made her sick. Malice and Jane made love that morning. She was always so tender directly after gear. Tender, loving, passive.